railway tracks wound like serpents through the dense forest, disappearing into the misty horizon. This was my domain, my sanctuary, or so I thought. Little did I know that the rails held secrets darker than the night itself. I am a train driver, and what I experienced on those tracks haunts me to this day. The town of Glenwood was a quaint little settlement, nestled amidst the towering trees of the forest. The locals whispered tales of the old railway line that cut through the heart of the woods, tales of accidents and tragedies that befell those who dared to traverse it at night. But for me, it was just another job. My name is Jack Thompson, and I've been driving trains for over a decade. When I was assigned to the Glenwood route, I didn't pay much attention to the stories. After all, superstition and folklore were nothing but relics of the past, or so I thought. It was a chilly evening when I set out on my first journey through the forest. The train rumbled to life, its wheels screeching against the tracks as we plunged into the darkness of the woods. The only sound that pierced the silence was the steady chugging of the engine. As we made our way deeper into the forest, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that settled over me like a shroud. The trees loomed over us like ancient sentinels, their twisted branches casting eerie shadows on the ground below. It was around midnight when I first felt it, a presence lurking just beyond the edge of my consciousness. At first, I dismissed it as nothing more than my imagination running wild in the darkness, but as the night wore on, the feeling only grew stronger. I glanced out of the window, searching the inky blackness for any sign of movement. That's when I saw it, a figure standing at the edge of the tracks, its eyes glowing like hot coals in the night. My heart pounded in my chest as I slammed on the brakes, bringing the train to a screeching halt. But when I stepped out onto the tracks, there was nothing there, just the empty expanse of the forest, stretching out into the darkness. The days turned into weeks, and still, the feeling of being watched never left me. I became obsessed, scouring the newspapers for any mention of accidents or tragedies along the railway line. And that's when I found it, the story of the ghost train. According to legend, the ghost train was a spectral locomotive that roamed the tracks at night, its ghostly passengers doomed to wander the earth for all eternity. Many claim to have seen it, a ghostly apparition shrouded in mist and shadow. I scoffed at the idea, dismissing it as nothing more than an old wives' tale. But deep down, a seed of doubt had been planted in my mind, and it grew with each passing day. It was a stormy night when I saw it, the ghost train, hurtling towards me with a speed that defied all logic. I could hear the screams of the passengers as they hurtled towards their doom, their faces twisted in agony. I tried to stop the train, but it was no use. The brakes were useless against the supernatural force that propelled the ghost train forward. And then, in the blink of an eye, it was gone, disappearing into the night as if it had never been there at all. I was shaken to my core by the encounter, my mind reeling from the horrors I had witnessed. I tried to tell myself that it was just a trick of the light, a figment of my imagination, brought on by exhaustion and stress. But deep down, I knew the truth. The ghost train was real, and it haunted these tracks like a vengeful spirit. From that day forward, I vowed never to set foot on the Glenwood route again, lest I come face to face with the horrors that lurked in the shadows of the forest. Years have passed since that fateful night, but the memory of the ghost train still haunts me to this day. I've tried to put it behind me, to convince myself that it was nothing more than a nightmare brought on by an overactive imagination. But every time I close my eyes, I can still hear the screams of the passengers echoing in the darkness like a grim reminder of the horrors that lurk just beyond the edge of our reality. And so, I sit here now, penning these words as a warning to those who dare to tread the rails of the Glenwood route. Beware the ghost train, for it is a harbinger of death and despair. A specter that roams the night with a hunger that can never be satisfied. As for me, I have retired from the railway, content to spend my days far away from the tracks that once held me captive. But no matter where I go, I know that the memory of the ghost train will always follow me, a reminder of the night that changed my life forever. And so ends the tale of Jack Thompson, the train driver who came face to face with the horrors of the Glenwood route. Whether you believe his story or not is up to you. But one thing is for certain: the rails hold secrets darker than we can ever imagine, and some stories are better left untold.